Secretary, Kenya Railways and the Kenya Ports Authority Management today appeared before the Senate Committee on Transport over the controversial directive to transport freight goods via the standard gauge railway. Let's now cross over and listen in to what is going on.
Ferries are unseaworthy. And he also alluded to fact that some of those ferries, as they are, because we inspected them, that some of the spare parts are not available in the market anymore. And so when they try to explain to us, why is it that some of those ferries have got ramps? Because that was our question. Why do they have ramps that cannot lift to the required degrees to prevent? And we had the opportunity ourselves to see the video of the entire events before and after the sinking of the vehicle where the mother and child were. And the MD's answer, which we don't hold you to fault for because that is a verifiable truth that we saw, is that he said some of those technologies and parts are so old they cannot be available in the marketplace anymore. The winches, the chain lifting systems for the ramps and so on. And so on those grounds, we are agreeable to a certain extent with some of the submissions that those ferries are not seaworthy. Yeah, because you cannot have some, a ferry like that one that you cannot buy a part for right now to replace and then yet continue to say that it is seaworthy. It is on that basis that this committee had made some recommendations that following on what the PS had promised, we said we would extend that to January. But come the time of January when we see maybe there is no delivery of a ferry, these risks continue to be posed to Kenyans. And I would want you to put yourselves in our shoes. CS, I know you do also. You said you watched those videos. We as a committee, in the House, even here, if I showed you my platform here, you would be surprised the number of questions I get from Kenyans, from members of the Senate, and they send those videos to me. And they say, Chairman, what is it you people are doing? Look at this, look at that. A man was thinking yesterday, a school bus was almost going back into the hotel. And they're saying, supposing there were children inside this school bus. And so as the chairman, what do you tell members of the public? What do you tell Kenyans? What do you say to the House? It's terrible. And lastly, let me also comment on the management of human beings when they are coming to board those ferries. It is also not acceptable. I mean, human beings, and especially at those so-called peak hours, CS, and you've been there, they're handled like goats. I mean, they're in an enclosure somewhere, they open, people rush onto the ferry, disposed of on the other side. Again, a similar scenario. And we were saying there would be small or very easy management steps that would be taken, including inviting, for example, enforcement from the county government of Mombasa to say, help us to manage these people. We saw traffic marshals in Mombasa who control traffic. Why wouldn't there be some liaison that would be saying, if you bring 10 or 20 of your enforcement officers, we are able to control this. People rush with their vehicles to go and fight for space onto the ferries with the vehicles. And that is how, if you looked at even how the lady and her child found their way into the ferry, because I'm sure as you watched, that vehicle should have been locked out of that ferry. There is no justification why it should have been allowed to be aboard that ferry, because it was the last. It was actually almost hanging. And if you watched, and we made those comments, and it's not for other purposes, but we discussed that even when PS was there and UMD. If you looked at that vehicle, throughout the journey from when it boarded, she boarded, her brake lights were on all the time until when they sank, meaning that she stepped on her brakes all the way through until when they sank. The reason why she had stepped is, among all the other vehicles, you found the ones that are in front, brake lights were not there. But her brake lights were on all the way. So that tells you which suggests, because she was aware that the vehicle was last and the ramp was not fully lifted, so she had to step on the brake to keep the vehicle there. You need to just watch that video. You will see that her lights were on until even when she, just before she sank, maybe because there was a bit of a delay, maybe she let the foot off the brake and then it rolled back. So what are you saying? That vehicle should not even have been aboard that whatever. Some of those small management things can be enforced by a little management or simple management. And that's what you're saying is that would be glad to hear, CS, that one, a few interventions. The ferry is coming. There's a plan to replace some of those others. How do we deal with this issue of spare parts not being available anymore? We saw some chains.
Discussions over the controversial directive to transport freight goods via the standard gauge railway still going on. Traders who import goods have criticized that directive, but this is something that we're following up on. But let me just shift gears to the Center for